On a warm summer day, we find a Union Pacific manifest descending the Tehachapi Pass. Built in 1876 by the Southern Pacific, this stretch of railroad across a treacherous mountain pass was considered an engineering marvel of its time. Engineers spent more than a year surveying a route through the mountains. Before the railroad's completion, many believed it would be impossible to build a rail line through the rugged terrain. Upon its completion, the pass became the first rail line between Northern and Southern California and a vital part of the Southern Pacific's Sunset Route, the second transcontinental railroad constructed. This new transcontinental link proved invaluable to the Southern Pacific. Known as the Octopus, in the 19th and early 20th century, the Southern Pacific Railroad controlled nearly the entire rail network and held millions of acres of land in California, allowing the company to wield significant political influence over the state's development. As the industrial and transportation landscape of the American economy transformed in the late 20th century, the Southern Pacific's once powerful network became an expensive, burdensome web of underutilized trackage. In 1996, the failing company was purchased by the Union Pacific, who now operates the railroad as the Mojave Subdivision. Due to the challenging terrain, the railroad is primarily single-track with passing sidings. Here, we see a manifest train carrying freight from Southern California to Northern California, leaving Woodford siding and heading toward Rowen. Although the two sidings are only half a mile apart as the crow flies, the train must travel over a mile to reach Rowen. Like most railroads in America, the right-of-way follows the contours of the terrain. This allowed the railroad to stay at a manageable 2% grade while saving on costly cut and fill earthwork that would be needed to cross the valley between the 2 points. The railroad winds around the Cesar E. Chavez National Monument, originally built as housing for quarry workers, traces of which are still visible in the landscape today. The property was converted into a tuberculosis sanatorium in the early 1900s. In the 1970s, the abandoned buildings were purchased by the United Farm Workers, led by labor rights activist Cesar Chavez. Chavez, a Mexican-American born into a family of farm laborers, dedicated his life to organizing and improving conditions for farm workers throughout California and the greater United States. He acquired the property to establish a model commune of what he believed farm workers could achieve through unity and self-sufficiency. The commune was closely guarded by Chavez's supporters. Those perceived to be non-believers or opponents were expelled from the property and the organization. Ironically, this isolation and rigid ideology alienated his organization from many farm workers and his political allies. Railroaders working the Hill during the time recall being confronted by armed UFW members when they had to walk through the area to inspect broken-down trains. Nonetheless, Chavez's movement had a profound impact on the Latino community and played a crucial role in advancing civil rights for marginalized farm workers. To this day, Chavez, who was laid to rest on the site, remains a folkloric hero and a symbol of resilience for many Latinos. His organization's slogan, "Si se puede," yes, we can, continues to inspire organizers and laborers alike. In recognition of its historical significance to the farm labor movement, the federal government designated the site a national monument in 2012. Here, we see two Union Pacific manifest freights pass each other at Rowen Siding, a mundane daily occurrence at a once significant location along the Tehachapi Pass. Though the exact origin of the name Rowen has been lost, historical records trace its naming back to 1884, when the Southern Pacific Railroad first laid a siding and established a station. At the time, it was common practice to name locations after company employees. For instance, just under 2 miles away lies the famed Tehachapi Loop, which is officially known as Way Long, in honor of W.A. Long, a Southern Pacific roadmaster. Over the years, Rowen has seen considerable change. Once a vital point on the pass, it eventually declined in prominence. At its peak, Rowen was a critical location for the railroad, with 3 passing tracks and a telegraph office, where station agents relayed train orders from the dispatcher to train crews coordinating train meeting locations. During the steam era, it also served as a critical checkpoint. Here, train crews would check their water levels to determine whether they needed to stop at the next emergency water tower or could make it over the mountain range. As rail technology advanced and operating practices evolved, the need for staffed locations like Rowen gradually declined. By the 1940s, the telegraph office had closed and the site was reduced to a single, remotely controlled, extended siding to fit longer and longer trains. Today, Rowen is like thousands of modern passing sidings across the U.S. rail network, a quiet remnant of a more hands-on and dynamic chapter in railroad history. At the rear of this northbound train is a remotely controlled locomotive known as a Distributed Power Unit, or DPU. These units help regulate train speed and manage the gravitational forces on long, heavy trains, especially on steep grades like the Tehachapi Pass. For most of railroad history, extra locomotives called helpers were added to assist heavy trains over mountain passes. These helper engines were manned by additional crews and stationed at the base of steep grades. In the case of the Tehachapi Pass, that meant keeping a dedicated supply of locomotives and crews in Bakersfield, ready to help push trains up the mountain. In the 1970s, railroads began experimenting with radio-controlled helper engines. However, early systems were unreliable, and manned helpers remained standard practice on Tehachapi and throughout the rail network through the 1990s. As technology advanced, locomotive manufacturers developed more dependable remote control systems. Initially offered as expensive upgrades, these systems gradually became standard features on new locomotives. By the early 2000s, DPUs had become widespread. Trains grew longer, with distributed power units placed at the rear or mid-train to help maintain brake pressure, distribute traction, and improve handling on difficult terrain. These remote locomotives brought significant cost savings by eliminating the need for large fleets of helper engines and the extra crews once required to operate them. Today, DPUs are a common sight on railroads across the United States, particularly on challenging routes like Tehachapi. The Tehachapi Mountains get their name from the Yokut Native Americans that called the region home. Roughly translated, Tehachapi allegedly means hard climb. According to mythology, a great ocean filled the land now known as the San Joaquin Valley. From its waters came mighty birds soaring above the waves in search of fish. With each catch, they cast aside heaps of mud, letting them fall where the sea ended. Pile upon pile grew higher until the mud became mountains, eventually becoming the Tehachapi Pass. Geologically, the Tehachapi Mountains sit at the meeting point of two massive fault systems. The San Andreas Fault, which drives the uplift and bending of Southern California's transverse ranges, and the Sierra Nevada Fault System, which created the rugged and largely impassable Sierra Nevada. The collision of these faults created a series of lower broken hills, forming a natural gateway through an otherwise forbidding wall of mountains. For as long as people have lived in California, the Tehachapi Pass has been a crucial lifeline. Native Americans relied on it as an essential link between northern and southern cultures. For more than a century, it has served as the main commercial artery connecting northern and southern California. Dozens of freight trains continue to climb its slopes each day, while US 58 carries a constant stream of cars and trucks. Yet the pass's full potential is yet to be realized. In the near future, California high-speed rail will run through this valley, allowing people to travel up and down the state in record time, further solidifying Tehachapi's role as a vital connection between northern and southern California, just as it has for centuries.